Welcome to Make Shit Happen. Our guest today is Christine Handy. Christine, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Christine, I know you were, a model for a large part of your life, and you still model today. And I know you have done work for Guess, J. Crew, J.C. Penney, Bud Light, and a lot of other big companies. And you are a breast cancer survivor, correct?
I am.
And things change for you. I mean, when you got cancer, I'm sure there was like a big shift, a paradigm shift for you. At the same time, I know you also wrote a book, and you're doing a sequel to that book.
Yes.
And you also, I saw on YouTube, I when I searched you, saw that you were also you also a keynote speaker, and you travel and talk about your story and everything.
I am. I do. Yeah.
So there's people who are probably wondering, Christine Handy, and people who are viewing us on YouTube, there's some people who are listening to us, and they're like, oh, that's a good, she sounds pretty good. People who are like, that's a good looking lady right there. So tell us a little bit about
that before.
Tell us a little bit about you.
So I actually started modeling when I was 11 years old, and that became my career. I loved it. It's who I was. It's what I thought my value was. I was in front of the camera all the time, and it felt like home. And I got married, and I had children, and I modeled throughout those years as well. And I'll never forget, I did a campaign for Just Add Water, and I was a couple months pregnant with my first son, and they were doing these billboards all over the country, and they asked me to be in them. And they were doing bikinis, and I didn't tell my agent that I was pregnant yet. So I did it. So I have these pictures of me when I was 2 months pregnant with my son, with a bikini on all over billboards. That was kind of what I did. I just kind of made it work. I always made it work. And yeah, I still model again today, but I didn't think that was even going to be a possibility. So in 2012, I was 41 years old, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. No family history, no reason to think that I would have ever gotten it. And I was young to get it. And so at that point in my life, my value really was into what I look like. My value was in the external. It was into things and the things that are outside of us. And I really didn't know who I was inside. And it's not that I was in a big hurry to figure out who I was inside. I really liked my life. I liked being a model. I liked being a wife. I liked being a socialite. I liked my little bubble that I lived in. And when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, that completely exploded. I literally had built my life on sand, and I was drowning. And so it wasn't just the cancer. It was that I had no identity other than what I looked like. And that's so fleeting. That's so temporary. And so throughout chemo, I went through 28 rounds of chemotherapy, which is a lot. It was 15 months. And throughout that whole journey of losing my hair and losing what I thought was my value, I started to piece together who I actually was. And the things and the external things became less important. And so as I was kind of watching my shift and the transition that I was going through, not just with my health, but also with my emotional self, I decided that was a big shift. And I thought it was worthy of writing a book about. And so after I was finished with my chemotherapy and I was healthy again, I decided to write a book. And it's actually become a national bestseller and is in the process of becoming a film. So obviously a lot of other people thought it was worth a story as well. And so I went from, having that, self-worth, self-love issue, right? That's an issue. If your intrinsic value is in things and outside and what you look like, that's a self-worth issue. And I went from that to what I do now, which is I try to teach people about self-love and self-worth. And so my shift has been very dramatic, but it's definitely been through a lot of hurdles that I figured out who I actually am.
How old were you when you found out that you had cancer?
41.
41. So this was about, several years ago from
Yes.
from today. And how old are your kids?
Right now they're 21 and 19. When I had cancer, they were 11 and 13.
11
When it started, but I went through 15 months of chemo. So it was a long, and then I had surgeries.
Yeah, 11 and 13. These kids, need the full attention of mom. They're just little,
They did not have it.
one is just a teenager and one is still a preteen.
Yeah.
And how did you walk us back into memory lane, and how did you, face that? What did your husband say? First of all, the battle, with yourself must have been, a real, it was really a true battle.
Yeah, the battle with my self-esteem was a true battle. I literally in the beginning wanted to just give up. I was like, I don't know who I am. If I am not this person, right? This person that I thought I was, then I am nothing. And so I went from that to having to really search inside my soul, like, why am I here? Am I going to survive cancer? And if I do, what's the purpose of that? Why am I, what's going to be in the bracket, right? On your tomb, like what's in the space? And I had no idea. What, a model? Not that it's not important. Like, I loved modeling. It was a great job and it was my career, and that's how I made my money, but it wasn't enough for me anymore. And so I got diagnosed with cancer. I literally wanted to quit. And then I had a bunch of people, really incredible women, stand by my side and shore me on. And that was really the first lesson for me, was that who you surround yourself is who you become. Because those other than yourself, right? Because you're listening to yourself more than anybody. The next people that you listen to are your friends. And so fortunately, I had picked really good ones. Mm-hmm. And so they were the ones that really walked me through the disease and also through the surgeries after. And when they decided to put their time and use their resources for me and really hold my family together, because I couldn't, they were really holding my family together. I was barely holding myself together. And not just because I had lost who I was seriously sick. And so when I saw them put all that value into my life, I thought, there must be value in me. And so then I started to piece it together that, of course, there's value in you. You just have to figure out who you are. And so, it was through them in the beginning. And then once I was finished with chemotherapy and through that trauma, they basically said, okay, now what we did for you, now you go do for other people. Like, that's the greatest gift that you can give us. And so really, originally the book was really meant to highlight how women can shore each other forward, can cheer each other on. But in the world that we live in and in the media that we watch, women are looked on and are portrayed as women, as people that tear each other apart. Yeah. And so I wanted the book out there that was absolutely the opposite of that. When I lived in Dallas, I was actually asked to be on the Housewives of Dallas. And I said, that is absolutely the opposite of what my book is. That's absolutely opposite of what my mission is. And they said to me, well, your book sales will go up so much. You'll have this bigger profile. And I was like, I'm not selling my soul to the devil. And no offense, Bravo. I think you do a very good job. You're very entertaining, but that's not what I'm trying to do. And so that was originally why I did it. It was kind of my love letter to my friends. And it was kind of, I needed to write that story because I thought it had real purpose in this world, which, by the way, it has. And through that journey, I was able to kind of nurture my own self-esteem. They nurtured my self-esteem, but then I was able to do it as well. And then I went on from that and started to do it for other people and started to teach other people how to do it. So they didn't have to go through the breast cancer. They didn't have to go through the trauma, but I was able to help them, get to that point of, the stuff doesn't really matter. What you look like is great, but it's temporary. It's fleeting. It's not going to stay that way. And that's not what your value is. Exactly.
I know you're passionate about empowering women, and you also have a podcast that
I did write when my book came out. But I don't do it anymore. I haven't done it in about 3 years.
3 years. And
I'm just on a lot of other podcasts.
What made you stop doing the podcast?
I wanted to be a guest on other people's show. I didn't want to I think it's a lot of pressure to get guests on shows.
Yes,
And
it is.
I mean, right? I was like, okay, I have to focus on my book and I have to focus on promoting that. I'd rather focus on that than promoting a podcast, which I think are so crucial. But I'd rather be your guest than go out there and find my own.
I hear you. Now, let me ask you, this book, when you wrote the book, Walk Beside Me.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture. I know you've seen a picture, but I'll show other people.
You're right. So tell me what made you pick that title? I mean, I love it, Walk Beside Me. And I'm just guessing over here. You had women, your friends, and that's why they say choose your friends wisely, right?
Definitely.
And you have friends who just were beside you in that journey. Is that what motivated you to have that title, Walk Beside Me?
Yes. And I start the book from, it's a fictional depiction of my life. And I start the book from where I was, before the cancer journey. You don't even get to the cancer journey until like page 200. So it's really not, my book is not about breast cancer. My book is about my life story. And there's so much before breast cancer even began. And so you kind of start the book and you kind of see the transformation. And once you hit breast cancer, you see like this team of women come into my life and just say, okay, enough with the low self-esteem, enough with the, here we go. We're going to build you. We're going to fortify you back up. And so that's really where the title of the book came from. And I think especially now, right, in coronavirus, we have an obligation and we have an opportunity to shore people up more than ever. I mean, this time in our life right now is the most where we can't be with each other, but it's the time in our history where we need to be connected with each other more than any time.
So, Christine, one thing that you said earlier, that you're there for other women, and it's not like they have to be sick, but it can be anything, right?
Anything.
Overcoming abusive relationship, overcoming hardships,
self-esteem issues. Mm-hmm.
Self-esteem issues, wives who lose their husbands and don't know where they're at. They're completely lost, right? And they feel that thing. I mean, what would your message be to women who are, if there's any woman out there listening and saying, you know what, I'm lost. I was in a marriage of 16 years. My husband left me, or, God forbid he passed away, or, I've lost my identity. I don't know who I am. Just like when you did not know who you were and you lost that identity. Tell us a little bit.
Well, fortunately for me, I had friends by my side who helped me in the beginning of that. If I were to completely do it on my own, that would be much more difficult. But I think what I would start with is starting to take kind of an inventory of, again, who are you listening to and what are you listening to? Music, podcasts, what are you watching on TV? Listen, I love Instagram. It's a great platform for books and things like that. But if you're following people that put on this fake facade and this fake life, it will literally just eliminate your self-esteem. So I would literally take that inventory and just walk through your days and go, okay, what am I listening to? And what am I looking at on social media? And what am I reading? And then take that inventory and go, is this lifting me up or is this taking me back? Is this helping me? Is this giving me hope or is this making me feel despair? And once you have that inventory, then you can start working on how can you change that. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are very inspirational. I follow people on social media that are very inspirational, and I pay attention to what voice I'm saying in my head. About 2 weeks ago, and I have a very high self-esteem. I think I am an incredible human being. And that's not bragging. That just comes from this light within me. But I also don't think I'm exceptional in any area. I don't think I'm better than anybody. I think we all have the ability and we all have giftings. We just have to find our own. And I was thinking to myself a couple weeks ago, I did something and I said to myself in my brain, I said, oh, that was so stupid. You're so stupid. And I couldn't believe I said that. 15 years ago, I would have said that to myself all the time. Not anymore. And I reminded myself, I said, you're not stupid. And what you did was make a mistake, but you're human. And so I had to kind of re-talk myself out of that one phrase that was in my head. But some people have many of those phrases all day long. You're not good enough. You're not worthy. You're alone. He left you. And that's just a tape that we can't play in our own minds. We have to turn the channel.
Yeah, I mean, that's important to turn the channel. I mean, and not only women who are them, men do the same thing. I mean,
yes.
And I mean, that's one thing that it can really bring you down. It can make you, and especially
it can
right
destroy
now,
your life.
and especially
it can
right
literally
now,
destroy.
yeah, in times like this right now, when we've been directed to stay at home and social distancing and the loneliness. I mean, human, and I always say this: human were not designed to be alone. They were designed to, yeah, we're
not designed to be alone. Yeah.
Yeah, we are social beings. We like to interact. We like to, interact with people, go places,
Yes.
and we don't want to be confined to a place. And times like this right now, when not only women but men and all human beings, when they are not, they have this noise in their, I'll just say like a noise in their mind saying you're stupid, or I'm stupid, or I'm lonely, or I'm this, I'm that, can really, really hurt somebody's self-esteem.
Yeah, one thing that I like to tell people, and what's helped me, I separated from my husband 4 years ago, and I love to love. I really love to love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to love. And so what I sometimes tell people is, if you're not in a loving kind of marital or relationship like that, love in a different way. So for me, I love to work. And so I'm loving through my work right now. But people think love is kind of, one direction, but it doesn't have to be. You can love through other ways other than just like, the conventional way.
So tell us a little bit about the sequel that you're writing right now. Give us a little sneak peek if you don't mind.
So I already wrote the book, actually. This book that is currently out has been so successful that I've kind of been babying this for a long time. I did write the sequel about 3 years ago, and I have not published it because it's very different than the brand that I have built. The brand that I have built is very inspiring, very squeaky clean, very, I don't know, very, very clean, I guess is the best way to say it. The second book is, and the first book is true. Everything in the book is true. The second book is, the first 3 chapters are true and the rest is made up. But it's not really on the same brand. There's a couple sex scenes, and that's not really, in alignment with my brand. So I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I don't know if I'm going to publish it. I don't know if I'm going to change it. So I'm just not sure. I've built this great reputation and I have this really big following. And I kind of feel like I would be letting them down if I published something that was not in the same brand.
So you have written it, but you don't know.
I don't know if I'm going to publish it the way it is.
The way it is.
Well, and the other thing is, I'm getting my master's degree at Harvard in creative writing, and I'm such a better writer now. I mean, they're really good at that school. They're teaching me so much.
Congratulations. So tell me, how did you get to Harvard?
Well, I never really thought that I would do higher education after college. I thought, well, I've got my master's and bachelor's degree, so that's good enough. That's what we do. That's what I was supposed to do, and I did it. But then, when I was diagnosed with cancer, after the chemotherapy was over, I thought to myself, you don't have to have kind of these binders around you. You don't have to just be who society thinks you should be. And so then I just said to myself, okay, what do you want to do? I want to write a book. I want the book to become a film. I want to go to Harvard. Actually, I wanted to go to Harvard or Stanford, but I ended up choosing Harvard. And so then there was no ceiling, right? But when I put a ceiling on it, I was confined. And once I took that ceiling off, I was like, I can do anything. And truly we can. And that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and some people, I mean, they might be like, well, I don't know if I want to do it at this time. So kudos to you. Congratulations for taking that step.
Thank you.
And So you don't know. I mean, now that you might have a master's in creative writing, we might see 5, 6, 7, 8
Oh,
books.
I will definitely have my master's from Harvard in creative writing. That's the other thing about me. I definitely finish what I start. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially now, because you can get into this mindset like right now where people, they don't have jobs and they don't know what to do. And it can paralyze you. And I often tell people, you just have to put one foot in front of the other. Life is a cinch by the inch. Life is hard by the yard. If you take your vision and go down 3 months from now, that'll never work. You have to just start small, just baby steps and just keep going.
So, I'd never written a book before, but I know people who write 1 book or 2 books, they just get addicted and start writing books. Last week, I had Dusty Staubs on my podcast, and I interviewed him, and it goes by Robert Staubs, which is his legal name. Dusty is, his nickname, and he has written 4 books, and he's writing 2 more, and he's like,
it can become a very big passion.
And he said, I already know what the 7th book is going to be about. And he has written 350 news articles in Houston Business Journal. And
wow.
And so
that's remarkable.
Yeah. So, and then I've talked to other people who have written 1 book, and all of a sudden they're like, I got to write a 2nd book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to write about.
Start with an outline.
Start with what? Start
with an outline.
I don't know. I'm just, maybe one day I'll write a book. I don't know.
You don't need to. You have a podcast.
I have a podcast. But a lot of people don't know, in podcasts, you really can't tell people your story sometimes. But I was a guest on one podcast one day.
Yes.
This guy invited me on a podcast. That's what motivated me to do my own podcast, because I really liked it so much.
Yes.
And he has it on YouTube. And he really doesn't have a big YouTube following, but my story, I think, got like 3,500 to 4,000 views.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Good for you.
So if you ever want to know a little bit more about me, you can just
definitely Google that.
Google that and look at the video. And I think his podcast called Grit, The Grit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And he got me so emotional on there. He was pretty good too.
Okay.
I think I broke down on that podcast.
Okay, now I'm dying to watch it. We all have a lot of time on our hands right now. I'm a motivational speaker, and the only speaking I'm doing is virtually, which is so different. I love to be behind that podium talking to an audience, and right now I'm like, feel like a prisoner on this Zoom, this Zoom stuff. But it's
so tell me about this. Because, and I always wonder, people who are motivational speakers and they go out and they talk to hundreds or thousands of people, and all of a sudden they can't do that. I mean, it's gotta be like, I'm not fulfilling myself. I mean, what am I doing,
Yeah, no, it's a struggle, but you have to keep, like I said earlier, you just have to do it in a different way.
Right.
We have to learn to adjust. We have to learn to change. And so I just am now doing it in a different way. I do it on Zoom, and I also think that it's important to, instead of getting stuck in the change, a lot of people get so stuck. They're like, I don't want to change. And so they don't. You have to kind of overcome that, because that won't get you anywhere. My film is on hold because it was supposed to start filming this summer. It's not my film. It's this film about my book. The film is called Willow, the feature film. That's now on hold. Most of my speaking jobs are now on hold. And so I'm, one of the best advice I can give anybody is try to fill in that gap. But how you fill in that gap determines what your future is, right? I mean, there are a lot of people right now, they're drinking during the day and they have nothing to do. So I'm serious. So they're taking one problem and adding another one.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do. So I'm filling the gap with, doing research, and I'm editing my 2nd book, and I'm doing podcasts, and, I'm searching different areas where I can be valuable in this difficult time, because yes, my speaking job and the film have both been halted.
So that brings me to a good question that I want to ask. I did not have this question for you, but But I want to ask this. You're saying people are taking one problem, adding another, right?
I
People,
think they do.
people have put their life on hold, right? And some people are already thinking, you know what? 2020 is a write-off. I'm
Yep.
going to write their year off. What is your opinion about somebody who has this mindset? I'm going to write 2020 off.
Well, I think it's a dangerous idea. I mean, we were all watching people do it, right? On social media. Unfortunately, everything is recorded right now. And I think those people are going to be the ones that are missing out. First of all, the people that are doing that are not nurturing their self, right? I mean, because you don't feel good when you're not producing or doing something. And I'm not saying like just making money. I serve. I love to serve. And to me, that fills me up. That kind of joy. I've never experienced that kind of joy other than when I serve. I've experienced a lot of happiness, but that joy really comes from helping other people. And so I think it's an opportunity for people to serve. And I think it's an opportunity for people to fill the gap without just, saying, okay, it's over. It's never over. And you can be doing other things. It's just a matter of choice. It is a choice.
And I mean, people in 2008, when when the Great Recession came, we saw a lot of great companies come out of there, right?
Exactly.
Lyft, even
Yeah.
companies got stronger.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it'll be a shame if someone is just saying, "I'm going to write 2020 off." I mean,
yeah. Here's the
back.
Yeah, and here's the thing about I talk about this having a ceiling. People think that like your success or my success, they just look at it and go, well, she's pretty or she has this or whatever. There's nothing about what I look like that made my book successful. Nothing. There's nothing about your business that made it successful by somebody handing it to you. You did the work. Mm-hmm. And all that time that nobody got to see, that's the time that people discount, right? They think, oh, it just happened. And so this time in our lives, when there's this kind of pause in our nation, in our world, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for self-reflection. It's an opportunity for making plans for what you're going to do when we come out of this. It's an opportunity for looking to see what you've done in the past that's worked and what hasn't. And so I don't think that people should dismiss this time as well. Well, 2020 is over. I think this is an opportunity. But again, I think people have to make that choice. And there's a lot of people that are making the choice to make a bigger problem. They're taking one problem and making a bigger problem.
Yeah, it is. So I got to ask you this. All your life, you were a model. You did a lot of great things. Just Add Water was one of your things. I mean, Just Add Water was pretty big, though. I mean,
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I remember first time I saw it, I'm like, just add water. What does that mean? And I'm looking at this girl on the billboard. It might have been you.
Probably.
What does that mean? Well, I couldn't comprehend. She just
right.
thinks it's a pool.
Right. She's a pool. Yeah.
Right. So, but and supermodels, models, they all have their own struggle. But at the same time, life is great, right? There's a lot of people courting you. There's a lot of people, trying to give you what,
Yeah, there were perks.
Perks, right? And without sounding rude or obnoxious about it, saying, hey, listen, world is at your fingertips, right? Right there, really, you can grab it. And then you get this disease. This horrible disease.
Terrible disease.
Right?
Yeah, the Kelly Preston, just yesterday, John Travolta's wife, she died yesterday.
She died yesterday. Matter of fact, she was here in Houston at MD Anderson
right
Hospital. And then all of a sudden, you find these friends, and you think about it, and you're like, it humbles you, right?
Definitely humbled me.
and then you're like, you know what? You find the importance of humility.
Yes.
Tell us, what do you think? With you going through the real challenge, with you facing adversity, with you facing this challenges, with you facing this crisis, the health crisis, the identity crisis, the mindset crisis. Tell us your point of view of humility. And why is it important? And why is it important?
That is such a good point. I needed to be humbled. And it's interesting, and I'm going to try to make this and try to make you understand this. When people are models and very successful at it, the world thinks we have this incredible self-esteem and that we have everything at our fingertips. If you walk into a room and you see the most beautiful girl in the room, you think everybody's going to go up to her. Most likely nobody is, because people are afraid to. So a lot of times the prettiest girls in the room are the loneliest with the lowest self-esteem. And so when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was portraying to the world as a model and as a mother and as a wife that everything was perfect, that my life, it took me 30 minutes to put on makeup to make it look like I was coming out of my house without makeup. And once I was diagnosed with cancer and I lost my hair and I was 96 pounds and I mean, I was sickly and I looked sick. That's when I realized that that facade that I was putting out there didn't help anybody, especially myself, but it definitely didn't help the world. And so when I came out of it and my hair grew back and I started to model again, I just showed the world a different person because I had become a different person. I decided that I was going to be authentic and real. And I called out a lot of what I just told you. I said, do you think that the prettiest girl in the room is where everybody's going to go? It's not. And so I just, not only did I change inside, but I changed my message to the world. And now I have a message versus before I'd put on a really pretty dress and be in front of the camera and we'd take pictures and I'd see it in a magazine or whatever. And I'd go, okay, that did nothing for anybody. Right. And so now I still model. And so I'll sit in front of a camera and I'll be talking to the camera crew and I'll be talking to whomever, and I'll be a light, or I'll be, trying to inspire, and then I'll put the picture out and say, you know what the best part of this picture is that I got through chemotherapy and I'm now sitting in front of a camera and I'm so great that I'm alive. And why is it so great? I can inspire, I can help other people. The message is different. It could be the same picture, but the message is different. And so my humility came by having a terrible disease. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody. But when we're humbled and we're able to be vulnerable, that's when real change happens. The problem, I think, is people are so afraid to be vulnerable and honest because not many people are. And so the world is portraying this fake life and these fake pictures. And now we have all these apps that can make it look different. And everybody's looking around going, well, how come they're in St. Bart's? How can they afford this? Whatever. And it's not true. And so the humility, it can humble you, but what are you going to do with that humility? That's where the shift was for me.
That is great. Thanks for sharing that with us and everyone who's listening to that. And there's a couple of things that I always ask people. Humility is always one of them, right? I want to ask you about at that point, importance of family. What did you feel? What is the importance of family at this point? And then you said you were blessed to have great friends, and
Yes.
people always say, hey, listen, you are who your friends are. You are who the company you keep.
Right.
So number one, I want to talk about family, and number two, expand on that a little bit more. Why is it so important? You lived through it, but tell our listeners, why is it so important to make sure the company you keep is so important?
Well, we can't pick our family. They are who they are. But we do get to pick our friends. And so fortunately for me, I was wise enough to pick very good people to surround me. And I think that one of the most important things is to be in alignment with whoever you choose. And so when you're walking through life with people, make sure you're not trying to put on a different persona, because when push comes to shove and you may need those people in your life, they may walk out because you're not that same person, right? So try to be authentic in who you are, which, when I was in my 30s, that was really hard for me to do. I put on a really big show and I wasn't vulnerable with people. And fortunately, I still picked the right people, but that was lucky. Family obviously is more complicated. Everybody's families has complications. But when I was first diagnosed with cancer, the first thought I had was, I don't want anybody else to raise my kids. I don't want my kids to have a different mother. And so even though I couldn't really take care of my kids because I could hardly take care of myself, I made sure somebody was taking care of my kids until I was able to take care of my kids. So you know, when women, we all oftentimes in our life get into positions where we can't take care of our family, whether it's illness or grief or accidents. And it goes back to friendships. Who do you have that can lift the heavy lifting while you can't? And once that heavy lifting is done, now how can you do that for other people or other families? And so that it's just kind of a chain reaction. It just keeps going. But you have to be aligned with the people in your life in order for that to happen. If you're hanging around people that you have nothing in common with, and they're not aligned with you at all in your morals and your values, I don't know that they're going to be there for the long haul.
So with this, right now, the world that we live in with coronavirus, COVID, everybody wants to do social distancing. You can't speak to thousands of your followers all at one place or your people. Right. What kind of advice do you have for people at this point?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I posted something yesterday. I posted, I said, okay, here's some rules that you should be living by right now. 1, pick up the phone and call somebody. Don't text. And number 2 was, well, text if you're not going to do anything else. And, I went down the list and I said, you reach out to people you haven't talked to in years. Search for people that you went to high school with. Find a connection. And it goes both ways. If you connect to other people are going to connect to you, and hopefully they'll, pass that on, right? And so I think now more than ever, we need that connection, even though we're miles apart and, so isolated. Isolation can unfortunately turn into loneliness, and loneliness is deadly. You see right now, you see more suicides, you see more, abuse in homes than ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but the only thing that I know about from the suicide part is loneliness can be deadly. And so I think it's important to connect more now than we've ever, and that obviously doesn't mean necessarily in person. We got to figure out ways to do it. And I don't think that the politicians are addressing it at all, but our emotional well-being is equally as important as our physical well-being.
Yeah.
And by taking certain things away, like I understand they have a job, and I understand, to an extent of what they're doing, but when they shut down beaches and walking paths where people can walk and, be out in nature, I think that's a real mistake. I think people need that more than ever.
I want to talk about, since you said closing down beaches, what does that accomplish, closing down beach? I'm just wondering.
It makes zero sense, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a politician. I'm not running for office. It's not a popularity contest. I will tell you how I feel. I think it's a mistake.
The beaches.
And you see, of course, people abuse everything, right? But the majority of the people aren't abusing it. They're going to the beaches with their families or their friends. And they're going to be with those people regardless if it's at the beach. But if you give people an outlet, an emotional outlet, where they can go and blow off steam, that's going to help our country. You take all that away and people start feeling like prisoners, there's no wonder there's so much anger and hate right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I don't know what beaches, we can say, we can ban parties at beaches. We can,
yeah, sure.
We can ban congregation, more than 20 people or 30 people in a beach. But if me, if I want to go with me, my family, like of 6 or 8 or 10 people, because we're going to be, even if we're at the house, we're going to be together, right? At the house. Right. So, if I'm in my backyard pool, or if I'm at the beach, it's the same thing,
But it's another outlet. It gives you another outlet.
Yes.
Being in your home, in your pool for 3 months, that you're lucky you have a pool. But you need other outlets. You know, you
Exactly.
need a different, mentally, you need another scenery.
Change of scenery. So yes, definitely. I totally agree with you on that. Let's say, Christine, this is 40 years from today. You have now, gone through 50 years from today. You have wrote 20 books, real nice novels, and you've written some fiction and nonfiction, which I feel like you're going to write some nonfiction once. Um,
Definitely.
I already can see the writing on the wall. You're going to write a couple of romance novels over here, because you said
Definitely.
there's some sex scenes in the other ones. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's where it's
Yeah.
directing to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
it's the end of the world, right? Today is the end of the world. All your books have been erased. All the videos you have made is all gone, and all you got is, and it's time to go. Time to go and go to the next world, next
Yeah.
life, hereafter, right? And you have a paper and a pen.
Oh, I love this question. Okay.
And they tell you, Christine, I want you to write 3 things for your future generation, for your grandkids, great grandkids, and for the future world, the world that is going to come hereafter. And that's how they're going to remember you, and your advice on how to live life. So 3 things about how they should live life, what is more important in life, and what should they do. It can be in any order, but 3 things.
You're gonna have to remind me of those questions, but how should they live life? I think they should live life serving, because truthfully, I was a guest model, right? That's a big deal in this world. I never felt joy being a guest model. It was fun. I loved being a model, but I didn't feel joy. I felt happy certain times, but I have felt more joy serving. I feed some people in Miami, and that brings me joy. So how would I live my life? How should people live life? I think they should serve. And you don't have to do it all the time. You can do it, once a week, once every 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be, because people have to work. I understand people have to make money, but I think serving is the only way to live.
Let me ask you over there. You said serving. So that means, pick a nonprofit organization and go volunteer.
Yes.
Like,
don't just write a check. Don't just write a check.
Just write a check. Like, I support this nonprofit organization in Houston. It's called Kids Meal Houston, right? And every quarter I get, twice a quarter, we get some of our employees get together and like, hey, listen, we're gonna go to Kids Meals Kitchen and we're gonna prepare some sandwiches for these kids. And I mean, it's a big passion of mine. And so that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because we don't have to go serve, right? What you just said, you're like, oh, I got to get my company, I got to get my employees, we got to go. We don't have to go. It's a privilege to go. And I think that's the way you teach people to serve. We don't have to do it. It's an opportunity. It's such a privilege to serve other people.
Not just write a check, be out there.
Both, if you have the opportunity. But yeah, if you can't write a check, even if you can write a check, be out there, be the hands and the feet, right? Shore people up, serve. That's the only way I want to live my life.
All right, number 2.
Which one was number 2?
It doesn't matter. It can be in any order. It can be you can say, hey, this is the advice I'll have for the rest of the world. I mean, this is what you should do. So number 1, you said serve.
Well, okay, so number 2, I would say, because I'm obviously a woman, and I'm 50 years old. And so when I was growing up, women could do a lot, but I wasn't, and this isn't my family's fault, I just wasn't taught that I could do anything. And it wasn't until I was facing death at 41 where I realized tomorrow really isn't promised to anybody. And look at all this time I had at 41 years. And what did I do? And so I said to myself then, I can do anything. I am capable and I am equipped to do anything that anybody else can do in this world. And I did it. But it wasn't until I believed it, until I taught myself that I could do it. The world is not, is not designed to lift you up. The world is designed to be in competition. We're not in competition. You're not in competition with the other guy who sells furniture. You can go as far as you think possible, you'll get there. It's in your mind.
So believe that you can do anything.
You have to, but yeah, you have to believe in yourself. That's all we got. I got me.
Believe in yourself, you can do anything. Number 3.
I think people are the priority. I think you have to go to work and there are things that you have to do in your life, but I think companionship, fellowship, being with other people has to be the priority. This world that we're teaching our kids into with being on our phones and being on devices and being on computers, this is before the COVID-19. This is not human interaction. And it's a shame that that's the generation we're raising. I think that we need to change that. And I think being with other people, I hope, comes out of this right now, because everybody's so isolated right now. I hope that when we're done with this, people are like, oh, let's just be together, because people are what's important.
All right. So I got number 1, serve. Okay.
Serve.
Number 2, believe in yourself. You can do anything.
Be you.
And number 3, human touch.
Human touch.
People are the biggest asset. Stay with other people.
Are the biggest asset.
Connect, fellowship, friendship, be social, be with other people. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Christine, first of all, I appreciate you, communicate, we're open to coming as a guest on this podcast. And you're right. Sometimes people say that, money is a big currency and money is everything. And
right.
If they give you a gift, you can feel a tangible gift and be appreciative of it. But let me tell you, the biggest gift is time.
Yes.
And I appreciate you, my friend, for you giving me that gift and giving my audience that gift of your time and sharing your experience with us, sharing, your journey through breast cancer, through now what are you going through, COVID, and your all the accomplishments you have had in life, and I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing this with me, sharing this with my audience, sharing this with the rest of the world, and anything I can do for you, I would love to return the favor, and I would do it for you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for gifting me this time.
You are so welcome. Can I tell you one more story?
Sure.
Okay, because I think this is really important. When I was going through chemotherapy, I had a port in my chest, and a port.
Okay.
Yeah, most people have a port, and so they stick that needle, that chemotherapy needle that you get hooked up to, into your chest, and then then you have those drugs going into your body, and then you have surgeries, and it's a lot of cutting, and it's a lot of pain, and it's a lot of physical injury, right? And my oncologist said to me at that time, he said, you need to negate all of that pain with touching and love. And so my friends, when they came over, they would rub my feet, or they would rub my hands, or they rub my arms, because you can't just have things happen to you that are hurt or painful or cutting. You have to have the opposite happen to you to negate all of that. And so I think right now we're estranged from each other because we're in this COVID-19. I think that you and your family, you have to, rub touch, hug, hold their hand, because it's isolating what we're living in. And people get tense and they get angry and they get, really, a lot is happening inside of us. So we have to negate that. And we just have to have a soft touch, and we just have to have a soft shoulder to lay on. And I think that's critical right now. And I just want to make sure everybody heard that.
Oh yeah, that is wonderful. I like that. So definitely, because we are missing the human touch.
We're missing the human touch.
I mean, I don't know when you met people what you did, but I shook everybody's hand, and most of the time I give them a hug.
I love it. I'm
missing that. Like.
Me too.
Of course, I grew up as a salesperson.
Yeah.
So, and one thing 101 of sales is like, you touch people.
You're a people person. Yeah.
I got to tell you a little story about me before we end this thing.
Okay, good.
So I started my, when I was 19 years old, I was selling AT&T long distance, and
Okay.
and I was doing door to door sales.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you more about that, how I got in it. It's a
Okay.
long story, but when I was there, I was one of the top salesperson in the country.
I'm not surprised.
And people will always ask me, man, what do you do? And this and that. So then when I became like a team leader, I had people in there, they'll hear me talk to people and they'll be like, well, when I go to the door, they shut the door down on me. When you go over there, they talk to you. So what is it? I said, well, I said, well, you work for AT&T. The AT&T slogan at that time was reach out and touch.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, listen, when they open the door, all I do is touch them. And no one
Exactly.
understood what I meant because they had me standing in front of this group of people, and I said, "Listen, when they reach out to me, I shake their hand and I
Yes.
touch their elbow." And
I love
they, I said, and I told them, I said, "When I touch their elbow, they cannot close the door on me." And everybody asked me why, and I'm telling you, what. So then, when I got into furniture business, every time I'll shake someone's hand, I'll touch their elbow. And it's something. If you touch your elbow right now, touch it for me. Touch your left elbow. Just pat it.
Yeah.
Okay, no, just pat your elbow like this. And all of a sudden, if you feel it, like you get this
No, I
feeling
know.
in
I
your
know.
heart, right? Because it's connected to you. You are
Yes.
connecting to something.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's how I made a lot of my really
Brilliant.
a lot of my living, a lot of my money by reaching out and touch. And I'm missing that because
Me too.
even though I'm 43 years old, 24 years from today, I still love touching people because I
We
feel
need
like I can talk to you and I can make
it.
a great impression. I might
Right.
be the biggest talker, right? But
Right.
when I touch you, I create a bond with you.
Definitely. So different.
Yeah. So what you said about, what the oncologist told you,
Yeah.
it's so true. And I mean, um,
It's not just true of oncology or surgeries or that it we have traumas that we go through that doesn't necessarily mean physical. We still have to negate that
I want
with
you to think about a baby, right? Let's say a baby's crying.
okay, I have the best story for that. The greatest example. There's an orphanage, and I think it was I can't remember, maybe it was in Haiti or somewhere. It was an orphanage with babies. And the babies and they didn't have a full staff. The babies that were not touched, they died.
Wow.
The babies that were touched lived.
Lived.
That was the only difference. And how can we not apply that to our lives? It's a fact. We need human touch.
Human touch. And that's why I told you, humans are designed for that. Even, I mean,
Yeah.
when a baby's crying, what is the thing? If you see a baby that's crying and like laying on this table, what is
Yeah.
the first thing you'll do?
Grab him.
And that's what I'm saying. So I hope we go through this COVID thing, and I know we are. I know we are. And I mean, yes, I hope people will be so,
Yeah.
desperate for human touch, and
Desperate.
everybody will be, we'll live in a world that's full of love and joy and stuff like that. And you know what? People like you, when they talk about it, it is already joyful.
Thank you.
We just
Thank
got
you.
to get out there.
Thank you.
Christine, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
touch. Hopefully, I'll get you back once you publish the second book. Okay.
Might be a
So
while.
you got to make a pact. If when you do the second book, I got to get you back on the show.
Oh yeah, when the film comes out.
Done deal. Film comes out.
Yeah, yeah. The guy that wrote the screenplay for my book wrote Ghost, the movie Ghost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's amazing. So yeah, when the film comes out.
Going to be, where is it going to be shot at?
Well, it was supposed to be shot in Europe, but obviously that's been eliminated, and they're not shooting anything right now anyway. So I'm not sure. They were supposed to start shooting May in Europe. Whether they decide to keep it in Europe, I don't know. I really don't have any control over that. The producers do, but wherever it is, I'm going to be present. So
where can people find you on social media?
So my Instagram is ChristineHandy1, and you can go to my website, www.christinehandy, Or you can get my book. Really is sold everywhere: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere. Indie books. It's called Walk Beside Me. So if you need a good summer read or a good COVID read, my book is a great choice. We have to be our cheerleaders, right? If I'm not cheering for myself, who's going to want to cheer for me?
Definitely. So Walk Beside Me, available on all
I'll show you.
books are sold at. Exactly, Walk Beside Me. And then ChristineHandy.com, Christine Handy 1 on Instagram. I'm going to go follow you right now.
Okay.
And how many followers you have?
23,000.
All right. Kudos to you on that. So, and are you on Facebook and Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn?
I am. Twitter is the same, Christine Handy 1, and Facebook is Walk Beside Me, my book.
Walk Beside Me. And then, of course, LinkedIn is Christine Handy.
Yes.
That's how I found you.
That's how you found me.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
Talk soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.